Today, my friends, is World Download Day. So if you're a supporter of any tier, whether that is on Patreon, on Twitch, here as a YouTube member, or through the Discord, be sure to link everything up over on the Discord, get your connections in, and get your World Download today. Now, when you think of stone production, I bet you don't think of mob farm per se. I know at least I don't typically think about a mob farm whenever I think about how am I going to generate cobblestone or stone. But we do have a mob that is producing that thing. For example, the cave creepers here are producing quite a bit of stone. And it is one of the few mobs that can produce stone as a product of fortune, which is pretty nice. And so today I want to try my best to create a mob farm and handle the mob farm drops in a very specific way. But I do want to make a mob farm that produces stone. But why do I need stone? So here's the plan. I want to use that stone to upscale our current ore generator. And I feel like this is going to be a great way to do this. So we have a lens of the miner, and imagine a bunch of these set up and a bunch of these plates essentially collecting these ores. And to do this, we need a lot of stone. And all of this can be set up so long as we have a bunch of stone. Easily we can place it with an advanced placer from Just Dire Things, and this can be instantly broken either with Just Dire Things, or we can break it with Annihilation Planes, which I think would work out really well. What's even more fitting for this thing is that the mob that we're going to be farming is actually related to ores and produces ores in its own right. And that mob's a cave creeper. Now, this is going to take quite a bit of setup, and we have these cave creepers in here that thankfully I can remove from here and we can mob swap. Because one mod that I have not covered yet is mob grinding utils, and I typically use this mod a lot for mob farms early game, but I wanted to use the Drigme this go around, simply because we had iron spells and stuff like that in here, and I know how powerful the Drigme can be for farming drops specifically from those mobs. Now, before we get the mob farm up and running, what I really want to do is I want to start planning out where I'm going to store a lot of these items. And I think this is where we start to set up our main storage or bulk storage that doesn't necessarily get stored inside of our applied energistics disks. And this will also create a central hub for sending items and or pulling items, because we should be able to entangle a very special block. And that block is going to be the controller from functional storage. Yes, I'm going to be setting up a functional storage network, and all we need is a simple storage controller and, well, several drawers. Now, I have an idea for the drawer setup. I want them to not just be in a room hanging around. No. Instead, what I want is I want them to be hanging from the bottom here. So we are going to have drawers that are essentially angled in different directions, just hanging around. We do have to keep in mind, though, the actual storage controller's range, but that can be upgraded with upgrades. Now, this may seem a little sporadic having this set up here, but I'm going to have my storage controller placed down at the bottom like this. And then what I'm going to do is use those drawers from functional storage and start placing them in sort of randomly. Now, the direction that they're all facing, like that is probably going to be random too, but I'm going to have them placed down like this, sort of floating down here. I don't know. I think that's going to be a cool idea. And these also positioned in different directions like this, where the items are not all facing in one central location. And they're also not going to all be the same length. Now, I do want to get all of these drawers linked together, so I'm going to shift right click right here on the storage controller, and we can now see our range. And yeah, these right here are out of the range of this area. But like I said, we can expand this. With just a simple copper upgrade right here, we can easily expand this. And you shift right click with an empty hand to open this inventory, right? It says shift right click while crouching. I'm probably gonna have to be standing on something. It's pretty typical. And there we go. So now that increases it by a range of 2. And we can now see that those other drawers are perfectly acceptable. Look at that. Ah, beautiful. And so now I just need to add these. And the way that I do that is by either individually right clicking, or I believe we can change the mode to swap to multiple. And then I can select multiple just by clicking the first one and dragging up. You know what? That's the magic of the functional storage drawers compared to like the old school drawers, that all of these would have had to have been connected to one another with trims. But this kind of within the range you can have them kind of wherever you want them. It makes it a whole lot easier. You don't have to worry so much about what's connected and what's not. It allows you to be a little bit more creative about, you know, how you set these up. I also need to click this, making sure that this mode is set to locking mode, just like this. And then I right click, and now all of my drawers should have a lock icon on them. So now that I have the storage up and running, we can start working on the mob farm. And I'm thinking mob farm hanging here, mob farm hanging here. That would fit in here perfectly, I think. Now, both of these mob farms are going to have spawners on them, and we're going to use Apotheosis to actually get our spawners up and running, and we'll use mob grinding utils to help us with changing the spawners to be within whatever we want. Now, I've got to design this in a way that kind of accommodates that. So if we set these up, we don't have to worry about spawning conditions, as there's a way for us to turn spawning conditions off. So that means that we don't have to worry about light. We don't have to kind of surround this in glass or anything. So really we just need a spawner dropper that drops the mobs down onto platforms. And then I need to make these platforms look like they are being suspended. I think that would be a really cool design, and we can use like some sort of chain design in order to get that functioning. Now, your typical mob spawner is going to spawn mobs from the center point out up to 4 blocks by default. So it'll look like this. So we have 4 blocks going out in this direction and in all directions. And that's the position for which they will spawn. But there are kind of fringe cases where they'll spawn like right here on the outer edge, kinda. So we want to account for that. So probably going out 1 more block and making sure that is covered will be a good idea. And then I need another block out that is going to be the outer edge. And then I just need to connect these, and these are going to be squares for right now, but I do want to round them out to make them look a little bit nicer. So I think this is pretty good for the base right here. So I have a platform that's being held up by the logs that are attached to the bottom here, and I think I'm going to add some more connectors to the top there. But yeah, basically a spawner is going to be right here, and it's going to go down, and we need to use some fans to push the mobs around because we do not have like dark utilities. So we don't have like vector plates, but we do have other means of pushing mobs around technically, that we can kind of experiment with. But for right now, this works just fine for what we're going to do. We're going to have some fans, like I said, push the mobs. But I need to get this essentially copied to the other side because I do want a duplicate of this. And this is where I should be able to use the copy paste gadget. Now, unfortunately, in this particular pack, there is some issues, and I don't know if it's related to shaders. I don't think it is, but we cannot access the setting menu to adjust things very well. I can't see any of this information. So what I need to do is make sure we're under copy mode, and I'm going to select my first corner. That is going to be my place corner. And this, I need to go out 1 block. Just like so. And then I'll go ahead and click this as my first selection. And then over here, I'll define this part right here as my second by shift right clicking. And now I have defined this area. But as you can see right here, I am sort of missing some things. So let's actually readjust. I think I'm gonna have to expand this out. You could adjust this, by the way. If you did have access to that menu, you could just adjust this outside of this, but let me go ahead and do this and then shift right click. Perfect. Now everything is in the copy region. So let's go to paste mode. And this is where we thankfully get a paste preview. And I should be able to line this up right here. Now by default, notice this is not in the correct rotation. So I'm going to rotate it until we are in the correct position. And I've got to actually make sure this goes out 2 blocks. Just because we can't adjust, unfortunately, right now. But there we go. This is the correct position, and I can go ahead and paste this in for right now. Actually, let's go ahead and anchor this. So we can anchor this to this position, so we don't have to worry about this moving on us. And what I want to do is I'm just going to link this into my storage system, and you can do that with Applied Energistics. So I'll just need to go into here and boop this in. Just like that. So now it's all linked. And so all of the resources that I have in my storage, I can now just right click and it should be able to now paste those things. And you can see it is pasting it right now. So it looks like andesite is some things that we're missing as the primary. Let's make sure to see what we can do. We can keep right clicking, by the way, until we have enough of all the items. There we go. That's all done. And it looks like I'm also missing some stairs. So let's go ahead and just make a few more stairs. like that. Perfect. And now all of the stairs are in. And then I can go ahead and get rid of this excess wood that's on the side. So now with the platforms in place, I think it's time to go hunt down some spawners. And there's a couple of ways we can actually collect spawners. You can make a cardboard box. That's one way. That's for Mekanism. The recipe has been changed in here, so you do need plastic, I do believe. So you'd have to get into also like either Pneumaticraft, or you'd have to potentially get into Industrial Foregoing. But we can and should be able to just pick one up with a cut paste gadget. And you also should be able to pick one up if you just have Silk Touch on a pickaxe. Now, I know a place specifically that has a bunch of spawners and it's in the Starlight, but honestly, any of the dimensional areas is going to have spawners. I just need to locate one of these areas. Let's see, I think I have it here temporarily while I have my flight. It'd be really nice if I can find this before my flight runs out, because it is kind of a pain navigating through this area without it. Perfect, yes, this area right here. So I'll right click, shift right click, and then I should be able to just cut. And now I have cut that spawner out of existence. So let's make sure to get out of there before we die. And now I have my first spawner. So I'll break this log right here. And inside of our paste mode, I should be able to now paste this in. It looks like I am going to need a block underneath it. So let's just grab a single block here. Just like that. And then place it in. Now, I do want a comparator right away. So placing this in, it is going to place in, but it's spawnable. So if you click a comparator on here, it now gives it a redstone signal. So I now have it completely frozen in place. And so we don't have to worry about any of its stats. Now I can hold control to see its stats, and it looks like its activation range is 16 and spawn range is 16. So it looks like it has like relatively default stats. I just wanted to make sure its spawn range was 4, which is a typical default spawner. Now to be able to change this spawner, I can use a mob swap. So I need to get my creeper out of this jar. So we have it there, and I should be able to just swab this just like that. And then I'm going to get back for right now and probably put this guy back into our creature catcher for right now. That way I can put it back in the jar. But for right now, we have the mob swap, which is perfect. This is a cave creeper, and the way that we can actually get the spawn egg for this, so that way we can change our spawner, is by using it to make some GM chicken feed. Now, there's tons of ways to get experience, but if we use like a single bucket on here, I can actually right-click our experience holder to collect XP fluid, which I believe works in this recipe. But if you don't have access to the same method that I have here, thankfully, mob grinding utils is an easy way of doing this. You can just stand on an XP drain, and that will then fill up with your XP, and then you can just click a bucket on it, just like that, and voila, you have yourself some chicken feed. But now that I have this chicken feed, well, I need to find a chicken to feed it to. Now, I just need to preface this. No chickens are harmed in the making of this video. Yet. Because now they have been. And we now have a cave creeper spawn egg. And with this egg, we can then change this spawner from it being a freeze right now to a cave creeper. And this is one of the ways that we're going to not only generate a ton of resources, but stone that we can turn into even more resources from other mods. I mean, I just absolutely love that this is a thing, and we are going to be generating ores from technically a mob farm. So this setup might look a little bit crazy, but I have some fans right here, and these fans are going to, when all turned on, push me to this center block right here. Now, there is a chance for the mobs to end up over here, but I'm not too concerned about it considering how powerful these fans actually are. So if a mob does land, it's bound to walk into this eventually. And this is how powerful this can be. Yeah, so the ones that are on will all push everything to the center. So this will force any mob to stay right here in this center point, no matter where it lands. So pretty darn cool, the fact that it can do this. And then I want all of those mobs to then be sent into a mob crusher. And this allows me to put fortune and all kinds of other upgrades on it. Each of these mob fans, by the way, they have 3 upgrades in them, and I just have the show area on. I'm going to go ahead and disable that though. So now without changing anything, let's go ahead and turn this on. So I just need to give the mob masher a redstone signal. That is going to kick on and start spinning up. All of our fans are already on. I just got to be careful not to land in here because yes, this can hurt you. And then turn it on, and we should see over time mob spawning in. Now, There still might be an issue here with this particular spawner having issues with the current value, that the height that it's in. There's a couple of things that we're gonna have to change if that's the case. But there are spawning conditions for certain mobs. For example, some mobs can only spawn if they're actively under a certain Y level. And this might actually be one of them. Also, light level is another one. And our spawner can all be modified. So if I go in here, I can see every condition that we can change. So we can use certain items to right click on the spawner and it will change, for example, the spawn range, turn them into babies, make the mobs silent, give it redstone control like we did earlier, make them have no AI, which is pretty cool, increase the amount of entities that spawn each time, lower their health, which is new, ignore players, which requires another star, which is exactly what I need to do today on this spawner. Ignore light, something that I really want to do, but ignore conditions is probably one that we're going to have to use with this spawner, and this is going to require a conduit. Thankfully, though, we do have a Heart of the Sea, so I think we have all of the Nautilus shells as well. Wow, and we have just enough Nautilus shells, actually, for this. Just enough, not only for this, but actually we have an extra one. Yeah, I can go ahead and do this. Let's grab some gold. I think I have gold ore in here. Yeah, raw gold ore. I can actually make a time in the bottle as well. Well, not really a time in the bottle, a time in a sack, a time in a bag, a time in a pouch with a temporal pouch. I think the temporal pouch also has a slot, if I do remember correctly. Maybe it doesn't in this particular pack. But this is going to start building up time and allows us to accelerate blocks. But let's go ahead and make the most important thing, the conduit. Oh, this thing is so good. So I wonder if just by default alone, if this is going to work. So let's place this in. Aha! And so just that alone allows this to kick on. You can see the mobs then getting crushed. But we need to handle the items being dropped and picked up, and we also need to handle the XP being picked up. And this is where the power of the Absorption Hopper comes into play. You just got to be careful. Don't place it next to your redstone. Instead, place it one block lower than your redstone. And the reason why you want to do this is because redstone signals, believe it or not, turn the Absorption Hopper off, putting it in its off state. So you do need a space in between your redstone. And you know what? We can actually get this a little bit closer. If I break this block and just use redstone here instead, then I can put this one block closer. But we are going to have to modify a few settings on this to get it to work really, really well. Let's see. I want to have the show area. And by default, it's actually not bad. Like where it's actually at is fine. I just think I want to raise it up a little bit. So let's create its, let's bring it up, and we can bring it up a few. And this whole area being up, I think is perfectly fine. Yeah, let's just put it all the way as high as it'll go. And so what this is going to do is it's going to collect the items and experience, and we need to send that somewhere. And this is where entangling blocks is really going to play an important role. This mod is so powerful. So let's go ahead and place two entangled blocks. We'll have one on this side and one on this side. And if I turn my map on, I can be able to see this is a south facing, and this will be north facing. So let's go ahead and say on the south side, the south facing is going to be fluids, and we have fluids going into this entangled block. And then on the north side, we can have items. Perfect. So now we need to define what these are going to actually do. So this, we need to set it to fluids. Now, I don't know if this is going to work. As I've not tested this, we might have to have another container storing fluids. But let's see, will the XP get sent into the XP holder? Because if so, that would be pretty cool if we can essentially have this pump in. And this does auto push, by the way. And so there's our XP holder. Now, as far as items go, I want these items to be sent into the controller. And so I can select this block, and then I can define that block to be in this position. So now it's going to send to that controller. Now later on, or for our other mob farms, we might set this up a little bit differently, maybe having the Absorption Hopper go into a functional storage barrel with a filter to destroy certain items and then have that send into an entangled block, which I think works really well for filtering mob drops. But for this farm, there's not really a lot that we have to worry about. Everything that these mobs drop are actually useful and something that I do want to store. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see if the XP gets sent. And then I also want to find out some other information, right? Because this should collect those ingredients and just temporarily store them here because all of our drawers are locked. So these mobs are going to get killed. Their drops get stored in here. Okay, and we have nowhere to put them yet, but the XP, it does look like it does get pushed because the experience that these drop would have built up in here if there was nowhere for it to go. That is fantastic. Oh, wait, maybe I'm actually seeing that wrong. There is 200 millibuckets of XP in here that just isn't showing up here. Oh, okay. Let's turn our magnet off. That's actually not good because now it doesn't seem like this is actually accepting that fluid. So we might have to store this in an auxiliary container for right now. Now inside of here, we also want to put our looting upgrades and our mob masher upgrades. So the mob masher sharpness upgrades is going to kill these guys a lot faster. And then of course the looting is going to guarantee more drops. And that's definitely something that we want, as we want to guarantee these high value drops which come from the fortune. And then for the fun part, we just need to pop into here and place one of each of these items inside of here. And there we go. Look at that. Beautiful. So now we have access for all of these items to be stored in here. And we can start applying upgrades. This is just from the one mob farm, and you can see this is starting to build up. We do want to make sure we have void upgrades for all of these. So that's another benefit of using the drawers, is we can place void upgrades in these. But we can also place storage upgrades in them. And the storage upgrades really make a massive difference. When I say different, for example, I just put a gold upgrade in here. Just one gold upgrade now lets this store 32,000 gold in it. Yeah, it's a lot of bulk storage. So with that, I almost have everything ready to go. I think we just have to now kill at least one wither, and that's super easy to do. And so, yeah, this is a pretty easy task. Assuming that the wither hasn't had any changes, yeah, we should be able to easily trap it and take it out. Oh man, this will be perfect actually. And, yep, that's kind of ridiculous. The tentacles do a fantastic job of taking out the wither. Perfect. And there's our nether star. And now for the fun part, upgrading this. So by putting the star in here, I now no longer have to be in range for this to work. So it's just going to work even when I'm not here, so long as it's chunk loaded. And then we have some other stuff like making this faster by adding some speed, and also by increasing the amount of mobs that can spawn each time. Now, one of the newer ones that I've not seen before is the echo shards in here. And this is kind of like giving them more looting right here. So it says mobs will drop extra loot, increase with level. And we can take this up to a max level of 5. And by default, there's nothing on it. But as soon as I click this, you can see it has echoing. And now we're at max echoing, which is pretty cool. And we also have this one too, which is new. Pointed dripstone, which will reduce their value. Oh, interesting. Look how much more they dropped. That was significantly more loot. Okay, it's almost too much loot they're dropping. Like, I now don't know if I want to increase the speed. It's almost too fast. Oh my goodness. Yeah, oh, I don't even need to increase the speed with as much as they're dropping now. That echoing is actually insane. Now, I still want to upgrade this, but I also want to start collecting the XP. This will eventually fill up to the max with XP fluid. And this does not seem like it's being able to be sent to it as of right now. This might be a bug that gets fixed later on, potentially, but we can actually turn this on. So once this fills up, XP will start to build up, and we can just have this collect. If you have collecting turned on, and if we bring this up, this should now collect the experience that's within that range. So this should be also fine. So I can go ahead and disable the render area, and this will start to collect XP, just like you can see right here. But possibly before this even does. Now, these items are definitely not being transferred fast enough, so something I can do is use a pipe from the pipes mod, and then make sure to use a wrench to open this up, and I can put an upgrade card in here, and that'll make sure it pulls the items out fast enough and inserts it into this. Because by default, the Absorption Hopper can only push out so fast, and it's typically not fast enough for most higher end mob farms. Now, I am kind of scared to do this. I can't always reverse it, but I do want to take this down. Like right here, this is the nether quartz. I was increasing it, but I can take it down with sugar just like this, and we can drop the spawn delay pretty low. I don't want to go too low because it already seems like the Absorption Hopper is having a hard time collecting the items already. Like, that's a lot of drops already. The minimum spawn delay is reduced with the watch, with the clock, and that one as well. pretty scary to lower that all the way down, especially if we can't keep up with the amount that it's being produced right now. All right, so at its current position, we are at 100 and 200. I don't feel comfortable, I think, going any lower than that at the moment. But I can increase the amount of entities that spawn up to 8. And this is going to make this even more powerful. I can't go any higher than this, and you just use fermented spider eyes. So this means that 8 of these things will get spawned every spawn cycle, and we just see the items already just barely get picked up enough. That's so many resources. So now the only other thing I need to do is, well, entangle a block and connect it to our storage system with a bus. So at the moment, let's see, we have 7 channels. So let's do an entangled block. And yeah, we can go ahead and take this one and reset it just like this. And we can use a bus. And any item that is now stored inside of our drawer network, we can set it up to show up in here. So I'll place this and I'll connect my bus, and let's go ahead and get that drawer connected to this. This is just kind of crazy, and I love it. I love this. So this is what's actually selected right now. Perfect. And then we just need to link this. Just like that. There we go. And then place a bus on here and a cable. And I think we're good to go. So let's make sure we have enough for this, and we'll get this to orange cables. Just to match. And we'll tap this in. Now, something I want to do is inside of this storage bus, we're not going to worry about what's filtered here. The filtering is actually going to be done by our drawer network, which is pretty nice. But what we do want to do is make sure the priority is the highest in our network for this setup. We want to make sure that if we put anything in here, it goes in here, and the first thing that gets pulled out comes out of this drawer network before anything gets played with inside of our disks. So when I connect this up, there we go. And we should now start to see like stone and things like that now available from that original controller down there. So now if you think this is powerful, oh boy, wait till you see what we do next episode, where I dive deeper into how we're going to actually automate this process and generate so many ores that I really won't know what to do with or have the ability, to be fair, to process them all. But we'll at least have them, and it'll give us the ability to truly dive into some of these more advanced mods without the need to worry, oh man, I've got to go and mine this thing. Nope, we'll just have it available. And that's kind of what you want when you dive into modernization, industrialization. You really do want a constant supply of materials, because that's really what that mod wants you to do. It wants you to automate just constantly and make sure you constantly have things supplied and in stock. Now, I do want to do a few things before we end today's episode, and that is I do want to decorate just a little bit. So a lot of this, I actually want it to be brick mixed a little bit with the stone. So I think that would actually look really good. And then on the bottom, we can add some moss. So now with all of that, this is the final product. And what's kind of cool about this is we can expand this even more. What I might end up doing is exchanging the absorption hopper here. And we just simply replace this with a item collector from Just Dire Things, which I think can be sped up even faster and is way faster at collecting these items. But we can always also add more spawners to this. We have this entire length here. And that's the cool part about these spawners is you can place them here and the mobs will just fall down, so long as they're not taking a ton of damage. Like these mobs, I definitely have their health reduced, but you don't have to have that for these ones going higher up. And all of this can be combined into one solid setup, just like you see here. And well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. This is going to be so helpful for next episode when we dive into a very, very insane ore generation farm, and I cannot wait to do that. So be sure to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and well, give this video a huge thumbs up to let me know that you enjoy these videos that I do make. Comment down below, what was your favorite part about this? What do you think of the new spawner upgrades? Are they too OP? Honestly, I'm in the side of yes. I feel like the echoing is really, really OP. But maybe that allows you to not need to run as many mobs, which would, I guess, save servers. So anyways, that's my take. Let me know down in the comments below. And guys, be sure to follow me over on Twitch if you haven't already. I do live stream 3 days a week, and I'd love to have you over there. Also join the Discord, discord.gg/ChosenArchitect. And speaking of joining the Discord, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Shano. I think I said that right. Thank you so much for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and gaining access to all kinds of cool perks, such as the supporter service, which we do have a Craftoria server actively open as of the time of this recording, and also gaining access to all of the world downloads, which today is definitely one of those days. So if you haven't already grabbed your world download, be sure to do so if you're a supporter of any tier, whether it is on Patreon, on Twitch, here as a YouTube member, or through the Discord. Guys, I thank you all so very much. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. And of course, as always, thanks for watching. Bye!